Hello, everyone, and welcome to James Talks Sport. This is the classics review, what I spoke about earlier, where I talk through the winners of each of the sort of main classics that we talk about, but then give my who rode well, what teams rode well, what teams need to improve, and yeah, so let's get right into it. So we'll start with the winners of the races. So starting at opening weekend with Omloop. Stibar from Quickstep took that. Um, a day later, Bob Youngles in his debut opening weekend and debut Cobbled Classics took the winner, Kuna Brussels Kuna. Seneschal won a couple of days later in GP La Samin or La Samin. Cut a break for Triano and San Remo. You had Notkerberg that was won by Cesbol, but E3 was the next big one with Stibar taking it. So far, 4 wins for a quick step. Sunday after E3, Alexander Kristoff won a bunch sprint at Gent-Wevelgem. Midweek before the Ronda, Mathieu van der Poel showcased his talents at Dwadors Vlaanderen. The first big one, de Ronda, was Alberto Bettiol taking his first win in the classic, as well as Stibar, Seneschal, Youngles, Cobble Classic, obviously he won Liège, and Van der Poel. Fabio Jakobsen retained Scheldepre, and Philippe Gilbert capped off a decent year for the decent classic season for Koenig, and obviously they won Strade Bianchi and Sanremo with Alaphilippe as well. So not bad at all. So start with what riders rode well and what races they did well in, but then also um, what sets them apart from the others. We'll start with the big one from Sunday just gone, Philippe Gilbert. He is the best classics rider of his generation. He has won 2 Il Lombardias, a Liège-Bastogne-Liège earlier in his career, and then 2 years ago he won the Ronda, and this year Paris-Roubaix. One is missing, Sanremo, which I don't think he will win, but he is the best of the generation. The way he rides a bike tactically, he's so aware of what's going on around him, and he is just one of my favorite all-time riders. He is a legend of this sport. Um, Another one at that sort of end of the spectrum, Stibar, often the teammate for Tom Bonen, Terpstra, Gilbert. Never got the chances to ride for himself. He won Omloop Nieuwsblad, he won E3. Struggled though in the Ronda, but then brought it back with a nice top 10 at Roubaix. The another established figure is Christoph. Struggled yesterday in Roubaix. Had a couple of punctures. For me, that wasn't the tubeless issue. It was more the width of his tyres. He chose with tubeless, but struggled. But he's had a good year. Podium in at the Ronda, winning Gent-Wevelgem. He's getting back to his 2015 form when he won just Sanremo and the Ronda the year before he won Sanremo. Set Van Mark, whatever he says about him, you know him position and then struggle, have more bad luck in the classics. He has had a successful classics campaign. He shouldn't have been racing the Ronda or Paris Roubaix. He had a knee injury that meant that he had to stay off the bike, so he shouldn't have even been riding, let alone being competitive. The Ronda, he rode in the breakaway with Askren and Vandenberg and Van Baal. then sacrificed himself for Bettiol and Langeveld. A week later, he was in the winning move, and his derailleur broke. Um, for me, he is the best rider on the cobbles. I think he's better than Sagan. I think he's better than Van Avermaet. I think he's better than everyone at riding on the cobbles. I think he's the best. His main issue is bits in between and the finish. He lost to Cancellara in a bunch sprint in a sprint rather in 2013. Um, his main issue is that sort of in between bit. He is for me the best on the cobbles, even when he's stuck in the 11. Um, I really hope he takes it. Really hope he has the perfect sort of week 1 year and can win a big one. I really do. He's got time on his side though. He's 30, whereas Christoph's in mid sort of 32, 33, and Stibar is the same age, and Gilbert's 36, so he's got plenty of time on his hands. Now for the new generation of riders that have done really well this year. Niels Pollitt, will start with him as he topped off a consistent campaign. Fifth at Flanders, rode well in E3, rode well in Ghent. I think he was seventh in Ghent or something. But then his big breakthrough was in Paris-Roubaix yesterday. Was trying to get him moves all day. What a ride! To drop Sagan on cobbles takes a lot of doing, and he managed it. Fair play to him. He is a rouleur type rider, so he might not cope as well in sprints as some of the riders. But if you get him solo, good luck catching him. Bob Jungels, obviously, is an experienced rider, but his first Cobble Classic campaign, not a bad one to win Kuna. Finished top 5 at E3. Ran out of steam a bit at Doronda, but all in all, a very good start to his Cobble campaign. He will now obviously go and try and do well at the Giro for GC, so we'll see how that goes. He won Doronda, his first win, his first monument win. Not a bad race to do it. Alberto Bettiol was arguably closely my rider of the classics. He top 5 at E3 Harelbeke, which showed everyone what to expect, but Doronda, where he flew up the Quermont and the Paterberg, he was fantastic. He will be a classics man for the future. Don't know Roubaix. I think he'll do Flanders and then go to the Ardennes, but even so. The last one who rode consistently well or did more than expected is Mathieu van der Poel. Coming off a full cyclocross season and winning 32 out of 34 races he entered in that. I expected him to not struggle, but I expected him to feature in sort of the top 15. He crashed at Nokreberg, and then 2-3 days later he won GP Domain, which, if you've seen that race, he's on the attack from like the last 60k. Gent-Wevelgem, he was in that front group that stayed away most of the day and then sprinted for fourth. Dwadors Vlaanderen, he put in an aggressive victory against big riders Bob Jungels. He dropped good riders as well. Doronda, obviously, it's common knowledge that crashed and then rode incredibly well to finish fourth. For me, that is the ride of the Classics campaign. To take, everyone expected the distance to be an issue, but I think he's proved that it won't be. Would he have won Flanders had he not? I don't know whether he would have been able to stay with Bettiol, but I think he'd have certainly. I think he would have podiumed. Um, so that's my riders that have done well. Now the riders or team that they need to do a little bit more work, or they need to, change it a little bit. We'll start with Oliver Nelson. Um, and he's had a consistent classics campaign. Top 15 at pretty much, I think, most races he's Cobble Classics he's entered. Top, and he finished on the podium in a few as well. But for someone of his ability, I think he should be aiming to attack more. I think he needs to be more aggressive. He needs to use his team better. Dillier, Vandenberg, Alexis Gouchard. He's got a strong core around him on the classics. I think he needs to use them a bit better, and maybe, which will become a common theme with this, maybe be a bit more proactive. You know, he was there when Sagan attacked in Roubaix and didn't go. But a consistent classics campaign which he hasn't achieved before, so he's on the up. Trek Segafredo have had one of a few teams that have had a bit of a shocker. Degenkolb, Monument winner. Stuyven, top 5. Edward Turns, great rider. Mads Pedersen, second at last year's Flanders. Shocking. They've been pretty much nowhere. They had 4 riders yesterday in that final move, and they finished 28th and 29th. Not good enough from Trek. What they need to improve, I don't know. I don't know. They have the riders, so maybe it's staff that needs to change their attitude, or maybe need to change entirely. Great Van Avermaet has been consistently in there or thereabouts, but his lacked that sort of finishing punch or that ability to drop riders that he's had in previous years. Not helped by his team, admittedly. Even though it's built around him, he seems to not have a teammate with him for the last 50, 60k of a race. I think the way he's consistent. I think he needs a stronger team. Maybe they need a sort of plan B instead of just one plan as well. The last team that have had not quite as bad as Trek is Team Sky, or soon to be Team Ineos. I love them to bits. They're my team. I really want to see them do well, especially in these sort of Cobble Classics. 2 podiums though, for a team of the riders that they have. In fact, 2 in the top 10, 2 top 10 finishes, 3 Luke Rowe in Dwaddles Vlaanderen. Yeah, 3. It's not good enough. I think they either need to be more proactive, or they need to trust their instincts more. Luke Rowe has the ability to do it. He was there looking great in Paris-Roubaix. I know his chain came off on the Carrefour, but I think he needs to trust himself. He needs to trust his ability as a rider, and think, yes, I can do it. I belong here. If he goes with Sagan and then is dropped 10k later, at least he tried. And yeah, Dooley is on the rise for the team as well. Chris Lawless is, with another podium. Those 2 are certainly coming through. Will they challenge at the Ronde or Paris-Roubaix? It remains to be seen. The ability is there. Ian Stannard has had a tough year so far. Everything sort of hasn't quite worked for him. Van Baal's been good, but not. He did a very good ride at the Ronde, very attacking ride, but didn't quite have that finishing kick. But again, they've got the riders, just like Trek, to be able to one day have, it might come together. From a British point of view, I think for Stannard we need a wet Roubaix. Luke needs to trust himself. Dool and Chris, they just need a bit more experience. Wout van Aert is the next one. The team as a unit have had a Lotto Jumbo Visma, or whatever it's called, have had a brilliant classics campaign. You know, Tunison top 10 to Roubaix. Wout van Aert was in the move at Roubaix until, you know, after his fantastic comeback from the crashes and punctures, and ultimately a hunger knock, which happens, but should it happen? I don't know. I don't think it should personally. Yes, he was chasing on for that 10-15 minutes, but you still fuel. You're not on the cobbles the whole time. In between, you have a sip of water, you take a gel, you know, keep yourself hydrated. That shouldn't happen in 2019. Other than that, he's had a very consistent one. He's top 10, top 15, top 20, there or thereabouts. He's another one like Luke Rowe, who I think he needs to trust himself a bit more, maybe try a couple of attacks. He was certainly the strongest in Ghent Wevelgem on the Kemmelberg. I think if he I think he needs to attack. You know, he's not the sort of guy that can wait for the sprint. He needs to finish solo. The final one, I don't know what's happened to him this season. I think it is a lot to do with the illness, maybe that affected him before Triano more than we thought. But Peter Sagan has had a unusually human Cobble Classics campaign, I'll call it. Fifth yesterday was still a fantastic ride. Top 20 at Flanders. He's just missed that little bit of Sagan panache and that Sagan magic we've become accustomed to. It's only natural that, you know, he's been at the top of his game at the sport pretty much since 2011, which was his second year as a pro. It's taken him this long to have a bad opening season. You know, I'm not worried about him. Whether it's the illness, whether it's his training, I don't know. Whether it's his divorce as well. It could be a whole load of things, but I'm not too worried about Sagan. Having said that, he has struggled a little bit this season. So it'll be interesting to see how he copes for the rest of the year. Yeah, so that's a wrap for me at the Cobble Classics. Talking about them. Next is the Ardennes. Van der Poel is going to go and try and win Amstel Gold. You've got Valverde, Alaphilippe, Quieto, Tim Wellens. Unfortunately, not Teish Benoit because he broke his collarbone yesterday. So let's see what happens. That's it from me, and I'll see you next time.